of the day. When you get an opportunity in this game, you make a play. The playmakers on three. 1, 2, 3.
Touchdown, Kansas City! The Chiefs are right in the thick of it, baby! Hello, everybody, and welcome to this special edition of Defending the Kingdom. It's the schedule release for 2023. Mitch Holthus with you, voice of the Chiefs, along with senior team reporter Matt McMullen. I don't know. This might be the most exciting day of the offseason.
Which it's so funny because we already knew who our opponents were going to be. We've known that the entire offseason, but still, this is a really exciting day in the NFL because it makes next season real. All of a sudden, we can start thinking about certain matchups, how they are going to be on primetime or not, where these games are going to take place in terms of the schedule and early in the season, late in the season, when are the divisional games, when's the bye week, all of that stuff. This is fun, and like I said, it makes the season feel very real. We're still several months away from playing any real football, but all of a sudden here in May, we can get excited about some certain matchups.
What are we going to do next month? We had the Super Bowl in February. We had free agency in March. We had the draft in April, this in May. What are we doing in June?
We got some OTAs to watch, some mandatory minicamp. We can talk about that and just get ready for training camp, I guess. We can figure out what our packing list will be like for St. Joe. I bring my Xbox.
Yeah,
you know?
Got to do that and have it ready to go. And then we'll be talking about if our passports are ready to go to Frankfurt.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. And by the way, as we go through the schedule, most of you already know it, but we're going to get into the Chiefs Kingdom version of this. Your new best friend might be our sponsor, Ticketmaster. And not only these games, home and away, but also the great concerts that are going on this summer here at GEHA Field at Arrowhead Stadium. Might be the best summer ever for concerts here.
I almost saw Ed Sheeran when my wife and I were in Dublin a few months ago. Couldn't make it, so now we'll just see him here in Kansas City.
How many weddings have you been at where you danced to Perfect? Okay. Yep, me too. All right, let's jump into the schedule. We're going to go one by one. We're going to reveal this almost like it's the NCAA tournament bracket. And I'll start with week 1. Matt, you'll jump in at week 2. You got the even numbers. I got the odd numbers.
Let's do it.
But one of the discussions was who will the Chiefs play as the Super Bowl champions, defending Super Bowl champions? Who will they play? Because the champion always opens on that at home on that first Thursday night of the season. And the Chiefs will open with the team that has not been to GEHA Field at Arrowhead Stadium since 2003. In fact, all of the other 30 teams in the NFL have visited GEHA Field at Arrowhead Stadium since these guys last visited.
Wow.
It is the Detroit City Lions. The Detroit Lions will be the team that opens up the Chiefs schedule and the NFL schedule with Kansas City on that glorious Thursday night, which is two things: a celebration of the Super Bowl 57 title and a kickoff to the 2023 season. So welcome back, Detroit. Many thought this was going to be the team that the Chiefs would play in Frankfurt. Instead, the last time they were here in this stadium, it was Trent Green beating them in 2003.
And it's interesting because if you were following this on Twitter over the last several months, like who's the Chiefs' first opponent going to be? Is it going to be the Eagles Super Bowl rematch? Is it going to be the Bengals AFC title game rematch? Is it going to be the Bills divisional round rematch from 2 years ago? No, it's the Detroit Lions. But Detroit's a really interesting team. They're a fun team. They ruined the Packers season last year in prime time. That was a lot of fun to watch. So Detroit's an up-and-coming team. It's super interesting.
And one of my favorite quotes last year of Week 18, the final regular season week, and you know where I'm going, is Detroit got eliminated from the playoffs. They had a shot that day going into the day. Because of what happened, they couldn't go. But if Green Bay beat them on the final game on the calendar, Green Bay was going. And they interviewed Dan Campbell, the Lions coach, like, what do you have to play for? You can't go. And he goes, we don't want them to go either. And he pointed at the Green Bay sideline. I'm like, yeah. So anyway, that's who we get first week.
Yeah, should be a fun game. Now, week 2, the Chiefs will be on the road. They'll travel to Jacksonville to take on the Jaguars at noon Central Time on September 17th. It'll likely be a warm and a humid afternoon in Jacksonville in week 2. We were there in week 1 a few years ago, and it was pretty hot.
And the first ever Andy Reid game was at Jacksonville, a 28-2 victory where the Jags got off to a 2-0 lead blocking a punt for a safety. But then Andy got 28 unanswered. That was the very first Andy Reid game of his awesome tenure here in Kansas City. Well, when we look going on to week 3, another team that was rumored that the Chiefs would play in Frankfurt or maybe on the opening game will be week 3 opponent here at GEHA Field at Arrowhead Stadium, the Chicago Bears, who ruined the party last time they were here. in 2017, I believe it was, in a 2-point conversion. No, 2015, 2-point conversion to Matt Forte.
Don't bring that
from Jay Cutler.
up.
But anyway, here come the Bears. And former Chief front office executive Ryan Poles, the Bears general manager. It's Chicago in week 3.
Not to harp on bad memories, but that game brings up a bad memory where that day was the same day that the Royals lost to the Astros in the ALDS, one of the games they lost. And that morning I was like, this is going to be a great sports day. The Chiefs are going to play the Bears. The Royals are going to hopefully beat the Astros. And then both teams lost, and they went to bed like, I hate sports. But fortunately, everything worked out okay. Week 4, the Chiefs will be at the New York Jets. On Sunday Night Football. That's October 1st. Super interesting game for so many reasons. We finally get Patrick Mahomes against Aaron Rodgers. It's eluded us for years now for multiple reasons, but finally we get Aaron Rodgers against Patrick Mahomes. It's not going to be Aaron Rodgers on the Packers against Patrick Mahomes. It'll be Aaron Rodgers leading the New York Jets. And this is interesting because I think the Chiefs are fortunate they have this game early on against the Jets because who knows how things will be meshing at that point for New York. It's reasonable to assume by week 13, 14, 15, the Aaron Rodgers Jets will be a complete product. Maybe not by week 4. So I think the Chiefs getting them in week 4 when maybe the Jets are still working through some things is good news for the Chiefs.
It's exciting. Aaron Rodgers just joined the AFC party here, buddy. Here we go. Week 5 is a rematch of Super Bowl 4. The Chiefs have not won in this location since 1996, and it's going to be the Minnesota Vikings for a 3:25 game. And we'll get into this later, but the Chiefs are kind of using up a lot of these NFC North games early, but they're going to take on the Vikes in that, and I'm anxious to see that stadium because that's really one of the great venues in our country.
Because the last time the Chiefs played there, it was at the University of Minnesota Stadium, right?
Yep.
It was outside and it was chilly. And
2015, remember it well, yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while, so I'm excited to see that stadium as well. I toured that when I lived in Minnesota several years ago. It's a beautiful stadium, so hopefully the Chiefs get a big victory there in Week 5. Week 6, October 12th, the Chiefs will host the Denver Broncos. First divisional game of the season. It'll be on Thursday Night Football at 7:15 here at GEHA Field at Arrowhead Stadium. So first divisional matchup, Thursday Night Football. I'm glad it's home. I'm glad it's early in the season because I hate those late season Thursday Night Football games where the Chiefs have to go on the road. Like a few years ago, we had to go play the Chargers in December on Thursday Night Football. That's tough. I'm glad this game is at home. It's against a familiar opponent, and it's early in the season.
And the division fun continues the following week. The Chiefs will host the Chargers. That will be an afternoon game, again, in the 3:25 window. You just ask the Chargers PR department. They'll gladly tell you that they've won 3 times at GHA Field at Arrowhead Stadium since 2018. But this will be a tasty game in October.
And one of those doesn't count. It's the backups.
They don't put an asterisk on there of going.
When ESPN talks about that, it's like Chad Henne started that game.
Backups played.
Anyway, a third divisional game in a row will then take place in Week 8. The Chiefs will travel to Denver to play the Broncos. So they'll face the Broncos twice in 3 weeks. But Week 8, October 29th, the Chiefs will be at the Denver Broncos, 3:25 on CBS.
And then the compelling question is finally answered. Who will the Chiefs – when are they going to play in Frankfurt, Germany? Are they going to play in Frankfurt, Germany? And who will they play in Frankfurt, Germany? And everybody's been guessing this for months. And almost all of them, maybe all of them missed it because the Miami Dolphins will be the Chiefs' opponent in Frankfurt, Germany. That will be in the States, I believe, at 8:30 in the morning as the Chiefs make their first visit to play a football game in that great country, which has now become one of our partners, obviously, back to since like the American Bowl, like in 1990, and that was a preseason game. But it's exciting. Chiefs will play the Dolphins in Frankfurt, Germany.
I'll be in Germany for a Chiefs event here in a few weeks in Frankfurt, and I'm super anxious to check out the stadium and the city and just to see what it's all about. I know they're all hungry and excited for Chiefs football, so that'll be a lot of fun. Really looking forward to that. Hopefully a big Chiefs victory out in Germany. Week 10 is our bye week. We'll touch on the importance of that a bit later, but Week 10 is the bye week. Week 11, the Chiefs will host the Philadelphia Eagles in a Super Bowl rematch on November 20th, and that'll be on Monday Night Football at 7:15. I think everyone will tune in for that game.
No one will work that day. The tailgating will start as soon as it possibly can. For
on Sunday, probably.
Super Bowl 57 rematch. That'll be really interesting. Then the next week, the Chiefs on Thanksgiving Sunday will take on the Raiders. They'll be playing the Raiders in Las Vegas. It's a 3:25 game on CBS because now all of a sudden you start to get into the, hey, things have lined up and the NFL likes to backload a lot of these divisional games, and this is the start of it. Usually about Thanksgiving on, the drama really starts to get going, and the Chiefs will take on the Raiders on the road.
And then week 13, it'll be 2 road games in a row, that Raiders game on the road, and then the Chiefs will travel to Green Bay to take on the Packers in week 13. That'll be on Sunday Night Football. At that point, we'll have a good idea of what the Jordan Love-led Packers look like. Should be an interesting game. I think that's one of those that we're really not sure what to expect with the Packers this season, but at that point, we'll have a pretty good idea.
December, Lambeau Field.
I can't wait. I'm super excited. I've never been to Green Bay. So as a football fan, I can't wait to get up there.
Okay, it's awesome. I'll tell you, it's awesome. And love that place, quite honestly. All right, now the Buffalo game. When will the Chiefs play the Bills? Going to be the opening game? No, won't play them in Frankfurt. They will play them then the following week because now you're into the second week of December. They will play the Buffalo Bills, another 3:25 scheduled game. That will be on CBS. And again, by that time, I mean, this could be 2 of the leading teams, not only in the AFC, but in the NFL, but that's a big one.
That's always a good game. That's always a game that everyone circles on the calendar. I think from a national perspective, a lot of people are talking about the Chiefs' rivalry with the Bengals, but we cannot forget about our rivalry with the Buffalo Bills. They're a team that's hungry and is still one of the best teams in the NFL. So that should be a great matchup, and it takes place in mid-December. After that, on week 15, the Chiefs will travel to New England to take on the Patriots on Monday Night Football. So 2 AFC East opponents back-to-back weeks.
There have been 25 games in NFL history on Christmas Day. The Chiefs will play in their 4th Christmas Day game. We will be at home for a Christmas Day clash. Going back now, remember what it was like in 1971. The Chiefs had the longest game ever, but here come the Raiders, right, at home in that game on Christmas Day. And so the Chiefs are 2-1 on Christmas Day in their history, and we'll try to go to 3-1.
And then after that, one of the most anticipated games of the season, the Chiefs in Week 17 will host the Cincinnati Bengals for a rematch of the AFC title game at 3:25 on CBS. So an important game down the stretch there for the Chiefs that could mean quite a bit in the standings.
So Raiders on Christmas Day, Bengals on New Year's Eve. It'll be a festive holiday season here at GEHA Field at Arrowhead Stadium. And then the final regular season game is the game that where the Chiefs now the 2 years in a row have been actually forward flexed. It can be either Saturday or Sunday. Remember, the NFL loves the drama of this final regular season week, and the Chiefs will go visit the Chargers in Los Angeles at SoFi Stadium. But we don't know the date of that game yet because that could still be a fluid situation. And again, the Chiefs have been forward flexed 2 years in a row. All right, overall, I'm going to ask you this. 6 primetime games, 2 Sunday night games, 2 Monday night games, 2 Thursday night games for the Chiefs on this schedule.
And I'll raise you this. In addition to those 6 primetime games, the Chiefs are the only game on TV twice. In addition to those, if you think about the Germany game, they're the only game on TV, and the Christmas Day game, they're the only game at noon. I believe there will be 3 Christmas Day games, but the Chiefs are the first one. So 8 times this season, the Chiefs will be the only game on TV. And then in addition to that, 6 times, or maybe even 7 times, they'll be on at 3:25 Central, being one of those main national games in the afternoon. So if you're a Chiefs fan, no matter where you live, you're going to have an opportunity to watch a lot of Chiefs football this year. If you don't like the Chiefs, I'm sorry. You're going to see a lot of the Chiefs coming up.
One home noon game. One home noon game on this schedule. That's nuts. You think about the way we grew up, one home noon game. And that could get flexed. Who knows?
Sure could.
Okay, second part is the bye week in the middle. Love this. 9 games, bye, 8 games. And the bye, of course, follows the Chiefs going to Germany, which is normally the case where a team plays internationally. Then they get the following week to kind of recover, rest, and get ready for the second half of the season. But you can't take a bye at halftime, and we have odd-numbered games now. So at 8.5, you're not going to get a bye. But to have the 9/8, I love where the bye week falls in this schedule.
This is something I look at every single time the schedule comes out. Where is the bye week? Well, you just laid it out why it's important. It's your chance to rest in the middle of an incredibly long grind that is the football season. you can have your bye as early as week 6. And for teams that have a bye that early, it's not super helpful because you haven't played a whole lot of football. You get a week off, and then you have to play all these games in a row. To have the bye in week 10 is just a huge advantage for the Chiefs. And we've been very fortunate with this over the last several years. Our bye has fallen in week 10 or later in 5 of the last 6 seasons. The only exception to that was last year when it was in week 8, and even that's not so bad. But for the bye to be in week 10, think about our opponent coming off the bye. It's the Philadelphia Eagles. It's a huge game in terms of it being a Super Bowl rematch. The Chiefs will have 2 weeks to prepare for that game, so that's big. And also just preparing for this 8-game home stretch that the Chiefs will have following their bye. It's great to take a week off and gather yourself, get healthy, get rested, and then attack the home stretch of the season. So I'm very happy with where the bye is this year.
Buffalo, Philly, Cincinnati, the division game, Chicago.
Tough games.
Well, it's the best home schedule in the history of this franchise in its 64th year. Another thing, this has nothing to do with the Chiefs, but it might in the future. Jacksonville will now play back-to-back games in London. And to me, that is an experiment of sorts to see how the Jags, who are used to playing right in London, it's kind of their home away from home, but now they've been scheduled to back-to-back weeks there, so they'll stay there for the span of almost a month or at least 3 weeks. To me, this could be an experiment to see what would it look like to have a European division and a team from the States playing 2 teams from the European division and being gone for 2 games.
And we're just speculating here. We don't know what will happen, but you're 100% right in that assumption that it really does seem like that's on the horizon. And we're going to see the practicality of it. Can this work? And the Jaguars are kind of being that gerbil here to see if being over there for 2 weeks and keeping things going can work for them. But it's going to be very interesting here in the next 5 to 10 years as a football fan. It's a global game now. People all over the world, particularly in Europe, are very interested in our game. And I think we're getting closer to them maybe having some teams at this point that don't just go over there once a year, that are permanently based there. It'll be interesting to see how that works out.
So as we close, let's just review here and go through it in the old quarters, although it doesn't come out that way anymore with 17 games. But the first 4, 2 of the first 4 games are against NFC North teams. This is the, always call it cross-pollination of who the Chiefs and the AFC West plays the NFC North this year. So in the first 4 weeks, you're knocking out 2 of those 4 games against that division.
And it's a division that we really don't know a whole lot about at this point. I think it's a division in transition. There's some teams in this division that could be very good this season. We just really don't know what to expect. I think the Lions fall into that category. There's a team that kind of snuck up on people last year. They have a lot of talent and really put it together at times. But it's very difficult for a team in that position when they're expected to win to all of a sudden start winning. And it's a tough assignment for them to face the Chiefs in week 1. They're an interesting team this year. And the Bears, who we'll see in week 3, are also fascinating. Is Justin Fields the guy? This is kind of a big season for Justin Fields because the potential is obviously there. He has a bunch of highlight plays and has done a bunch of great things individually in the NFL. But can that lead to wins and stacking wins? We're going to find out this year, and we'll find out early on how Justin Fields has started his season when we see them in week 3.
And 2 of these, the 2 teams the Chiefs will play first, Detroit and Chicago. Think about them. And then the Vikings in week 5. So throw in a third one. Those 3 teams for 30 seasons have looked at the Packers having either Brett Favre or Aaron Rodgers. Now, neither one of them are there. Nothing against Jordan Love, but you know what they're thinking. The door is flown open. All right. The second 4, talked about the Vikings already, but it's the 2 games against Denver in 3 weeks. That's what gets your attention in this stretch.
And that's a very important stretch for the Chiefs because if you're trying to win, a 7th consecutive AFC West title, or would this be 8 now? A lot of AFC West titles in a row.
It would be 8.
Going for their 8th.
8 if you're keeping track at home. That's a snowman.
Going for their 8th consecutive AFC West title. Those are obviously important games where you want to establish a foothold on the division. That Denver game on Thursday Night Football is a big deal because that's a chance to make a statement early on in the season. I know Denver is trying to really turn the page from last year, which was a disaster in a lot of ways, but they're led by Sean Payton now. It's a good opportunity for the Chiefs in week 6 to say, hey, this is still our division. Then host the Chargers the following week. make another statement, and then go to Denver after that. It'll be strange not seeing the Broncos again the rest of the season until maybe the playoffs. We'll see how everything works out. But that's a very important stretch for the Chiefs there if they're trying to lock up an 8th consecutive division title down the road.
And then a really tough stretch is the next four, I should say. What's interesting, the Chiefs have played in 4 Super Bowls, and 2 of the 4 Super Bowl opponents are in this stretch here because they'll have the 57 rematch against the Eagles, and then they'll play the Packers in that game at Lambeau Field. But when you look at road games and that time of year, there'll be some challenges all throughout the schedule, but that stretch also pops off the screen.
Yeah, absolutely. That's where that bye week is very helpful. We're fortunate that bye week is in week 10, just preparing for a tough stretch of games following that. It wouldn't be right to go to Green Bay, though, in September, right? We have to go in December and get the full experience.
The only thing is I love staying in Appleton, and we drive through corn and soybean fields. They'll all be harvested by then. But still, going to Lambeau Field in Green Bay is like visiting a museum. It's just awesome, and the Packer fans are great. And then the final 5 games. We know what the league does, and they've done it again. When you look at the Chiefs finishing at the Chargers and playing the Raiders and playing Cincinnati here on the we talked about the New Year's Eve and or New Year's Day and New Year's Eve, and Christmas Day games, but backloading the schedule. It's like backloading your firecracker and your fireworks display on the 4th of July. The league has done this. It's paid off. Look at these great games. Even if teams are out of it, by week 17 and 18, they bring it, just why I mentioned earlier about Detroit.
And by adding that extra wild card team a few years ago, it makes these games so much more interesting. Very rarely anymore do you see a team that's resting their starters in the final 2 weeks of the season because so many things can affect not just if you win your division, but also seeding. Look at last year for the Chiefs playing the Raiders. The Raiders had nothing to play for, but the Chiefs had to beat the Raiders in order to lock up the 1 seed in the final week of the season. And if you look at how the schedule shapes out this year, the final 5 weeks of the season are all against AFC opponents. That's intentional. The NFL doesn't want the Chiefs playing an NFC opponent that has no bearing on things like tiebreakers for the AFC standings late in the year. So the Chiefs, when they're playing the Chargers in Week 18, who knows? It could be for the division. It could be for the 1 seed. It could be for a whole bunch of things. And the Chargers don't even have to be involved in the playoff hunt for that game to matter. So the fact that the Chiefs are facing some very good teams down the stretch, 2 divisional teams in their final 3 games, and the non-divisional team is the Cincinnati Bengals, who we all think will be right there with the Chiefs at the very end. It's a tough way to finish the season, but we know the Chiefs will be up for it.
It's going to be important. Maybe you know a guy or know a gal at Ticketmaster. Might be nice to know to get you the key to the algorithm so you can get your tickets, because this is an awesome home schedule. It is an awesome road schedule. It is the defending Super Bowl 57 champion Kansas City Chiefs. And now you know you can make all of your plans for an outstanding fall and winter as the Chiefs will attack their 64th season.
10, 5, touchdown! Lock it down! And the celebration begins at Arrowhead.